First and foremost, I do want to ask you. I remember you put out a column. Man, maybe it was beginning of this. Maybe it was right before the season. I can't remember, but essentially saying Tennessee's for real. So, are you shocked to see Tennessee where it is right now at this point in the season?
Not at all. I mean, am I shocked that they're scoring bajillion points and Hendon Hooker is looking awesome? No. Am I surprised that they have kind of coalesced as well as they have on defense, where there's obviously still some issues in terms of pass coverage, but they've improved in the run game. They're so much better on third downs. They're still creating enough havoc without kind of getting exposed with so many big plays. So when you put all that together, that's how Tennessee's a top five team in the country. So that is a bit surprising, top five. But I was pretty steadfast the entire offseason. I thought they were better than Kentucky, this team that we're about to talk about, and that they would be the number 2 team in the SEC East this year. Obviously, they have a chance to be better than that, in
Yeah.
2 weeks, but they have to take care of business on Saturday first.
Kind of a silly question to ask right now because again, you've got so many other big games coming up, like Kentucky this weekend, like Georgia in 2 weeks. But I mean, Hendon Hooker, he's right there in the Heisman conversation. Jalen Hyatt, some are saying he should be in the Heisman conversation right now, but Biletnikoff for sure. Did you see those type of seasons from, maybe some of Tennessee's players, but obviously, they're playing that way, and that's a big reason why Tennessee is, where it is right now.
I would be lying if I said I thought Hooker would be even better than 31 touchdowns to 3 interceptions that he
Yeah.
did a year ago. And he's been better. And I think that's a credit to him and the work he put in the offseason to kind of continue to build up some of his strengths in the game and become even more comfortable in Heupel's system. I heard the stuff. I read you guys. I read AP. Hubbard. All the talk, and there was a lot of buzz about Hyatt. Kind of having this bounce back, resurgent season. I think no one saw him becoming this good and kind of literally seamlessly fitting in. And I think in terms of Tennessee's outlook in the future, that's a big recruiting pitch that Heupel's going to be able to sell. That hey, Brew McCoy's coming here. Jalen Hyatt struggled, and now look at this. And we've done all this without Cedric Tillman. I mean that's why they may flip Carnell Tate. That's why there's some guys that they're in on at that receiver position that Josh Heupel should be able to go to any quarterback and receiver in the country and say, I can do this for you. And I think that's a big selling point.
Again, proof's in the pudding. Look at Jalen Hyatt this year. Look at Cedric Tillman last year. Look at Velus Jones as well. You're seeing some examples of that. Now looking at Kentucky, I've kind of described Kentucky all week long as a team that is not as good offensively as it was a season ago. Really sound defensively team, really good defensive team, but it's still a team that can beat you if you come in and make mistakes. Is that kind of right? Is that kind of how you see Kentucky right now? A little bit of hot and cold offensively, getting better with Rodriguez the last couple of games, but obviously they need a healthy quarterback in Will Levis.
Yeah, I mean, they did have a big performance against Mississippi State. Rodriguez rushed for 200 yards. They've had the bye week to kind of put together a game plan, strictly around this Tennessee game. I think they've kind of held this thing together with duct tape and chicken wire. They've been beat up really since the opening week of the season. I wrote another column in the preseason, skeptical about this whole big blue wall and them just running it back. And sure enough, Kentucky's offensive line has not been the strength that it was in previous years. They allow a pressure rate is at the highest pressure rate in the SEC, among the worst in the country. Outside of that Mississippi State game, they really haven't run the ball very well, which is why they lost to South Carolina. Will Levis has been hot and cold, like you said. I'll be very curious to see how Kentucky approaches this game because their OC comes out and says we can't score 50 points. That's not really the style we play. Obviously, Tennessee's averaging 50 points, but do you try to shorten the game and go for a bunch of fourth downs? Maybe not in the exact way that Brian Kelly kind of approached playing Tennessee a couple weeks ago, but do you take some risks and say, hey, we don't have 3 downs to get this first down here. We got 4. And that could put Tennessee in some pressure situations because I do think Dane Key is a heck of a receiver outside. Barryon Brown. I mean, those are guys that can stress Tennessee's corners, which is, I think, the weak link, that secondary of Tennessee's entire defense.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Plus, you got a couple guys injured at that position as well. So who will you have back this week? Time will tell come Saturday. Kind of on that note, last year Kentucky just kind of said, "All right, game plan. I'm going to throw it out the window," because Tennessee came out and scored twice on, I want to say, 2 plays on screen passes at the perimeter, and they said, "All right, we gotta throw it. We gotta ditch our game plan. We try to keep up with Tennessee." So you're saying you don't foresee that happening again this year, and I didn't see it happening last year, to be honest with you, because that's just not how they go. They've got Rodriguez, who's coming back into form a little bit. They don't have Wandale Robinson. They don't have Josh Ali on the outside, though you do have Brown, you do have Dane, you have some guys that are capable playmakers. I just don't see a scenario kind of like what you were just saying, where they scrap the entire game plan and they have Will Levis throw it 30 times in the first half like last year. I don't see that happening 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. And I actually do. I think Kentucky's receivers this year are better than the guys they lost. I mean, Wandale Robinson, no, but Tavion Robinson's been solid since he got hurt.
Yeah.
But I like those two kids that they have. They have not put the ball in Will Levis's hands to go win them a game yet this season. He's gotten a lot of buzz, and a lot of jokes have been written about him being the top 5 quarterback prospect, especially compared to what Hendon Hooker has kind of produced actually on the field. But if that is the path, maybe they do give him the ball 30 times, but that is not the approach I see either. I mean, it really comes down to, this is a worse Kentucky team than last season, and in maybe even the last couple seasons. And Jeremy Pruitt found ways to beat Kentucky. I as long as Tennessee, I think, comes in focused, I have a hard time seeing them not win this football game on Saturday.
Look at Kentucky's defense. It's a very balanced defense. I've said it all week. 10 sacks, all from different players. 6 interceptions, all from different players. Strength is in the second layer at the linebacker position, of course, with DeAndre Square, Jacquez Jones. They've got J.J. Weaver and Jordan Wright off the edges a little bit. What do you like about this Kentucky defense? It's pretty solid. I mean, it's top 10 in scoring and top 15 overall.
Yeah, I mean, Jacquez Jones is a guy that AP and I actually covered as recruits many years ago, and he, started Ole Miss, transferred up. I like the linebacking core. The defense is not exactly littered with a bunch of special players like Kentucky has had kind of in the past. Brad White, their coordinator, just does a really good job putting his guys in the best position to play. I mean, this is a physical unit. That's probably the one word I think you really can say about this defense. They truly are physical. They're not an exceptional pass rushing defense. They're pretty good against the run. But they will pound you and they will make you feel it. And I do think, again, if you're looking for a potential path to some sort of upset or a scare for that Tennessee may be in store for, that could be it. I mean, this is the reason they went into Gainesville, and Florida is not a great team, but the reason they went into Gainesville is that they laid it on Anthony Richardson. They made him feel them. And that is something that, if you get a couple early hits on Hendon Hooker, maybe, he sails a pass or two and suddenly a turnover, he kind of flipped the script in a game.
All right, Jesse. So obviously Tennessee and Kentucky this week, the big one, another big one. Can't look ahead if you are. Well, we can, but if you're that football team, can't.
Yeah,
look
we
ahead.
can.
Yeah.
We don't have to play, so it doesn't matter for us.
Yeah, Tennessee and Georgia coming up in 2 weeks. But anything else you're looking for this weekend around the SEC? Ole Miss at Texas A&M, that could be a bludgeoning, in my opinion, with Ole Miss potentially getting back on the winning ways. I don't think Florida and Georgia is going to be much of a football game. Anything else from the SEC this weekend?
Yeah, I'm curious. I think that A&M Ole Miss game is going to be interesting because, does Ole Miss enough momentum to get the mat after getting embarrassed at home? That schedule was so soft to start the season, and you were able to get some Charmin wins, and then you face a real, team in LSU, and yet LSU isn't like the best team in the SEC West, but they got a lot of good players, and Brian Kelly's a good coach, and so LSU Lane, he got exposed a little bit. I think, he was kind of feeling himself after his latest Auburn audition. So can they get off the mat? And conversely, I mean, what's going on with Jimbo? I've written about it plenty, but man, A&M's in a rough spot, and they're in real danger of, they signed that #1 recruiting class. They're in real danger of some of those kids, maybe looking elsewhere if they don't figure out some things offensively, whether that's deciding on a quarterback, but how you get Evan Stewart the football. How do you just simplify the offense? It doesn't have to be so complicated and perfect on every play. Josh Heupel, Tennessee, to bring us back full circle, he's a proven example of this. Their scheme is not, the most complex, the most difficult to understand. It is literally find your playmakers in space, spread guys out, find the one-on-one matchups, and expose it to death. And that's what they did to Alabama, and that's probably what they're going to do on Saturday to Kentucky.